Yeah, so when you do watch a film like this back, which is so naturalistic and so personal, and such an emotionally driven piece, is it quite hard for you to watch it back? Because I guess it's such a, I don't know, it's something so intimate about this movie.
When the way that we shot this film was, I mean, it was improvised. It was a minute crew, so sometimes there'd be like just the cameraman and the boom op in the room, and the focus puller, and then us, and you forget that you're going to show it. You forget that it'll be on a cinema screen one day, and that random people that you don't know are going to watch it. And so it is, and also it's very personal. I mean, this film was Dominic Savage, the director, and I sort of came up with the story together, and it's. And also because it's improvised, the words are coming out of you. You're inventing them. You take identity. It takes your identity. It's a very bizarre thing, actually, doing an improvised movie. I'd never done one before, and you come out with stuff and you think, where did that come from? And so there is something. There's real ownership over it, and so therefore, showing this film yesterday was I had to go to bed afterwards straight away. I was feeling really weird and quite exposed, and but in a way, that's what sometimes work has to be really personal to. Sometimes you make stuff that feels really far away from you, and that's great, and then sometimes you go really deep down, and that's also great, but it's just a little bit more exposing for the actor. My family were like, so what was the reaction? I was like, I don't know. I have no idea, because it's sort of, at the end of it, people are, it's a film that makes you think and reflect, and maybe makes you feel kind of depressed as well. So it's a weird one to kind of judge the reaction on, because you can't. It's a personal. I think it has a very personal effect on everyone. It's weird. It's weird showing it. I felt like a shaky mess afterwards.
And I mean, just speaking to Dominic just now, Cooper, about Dominic Savage, and just say about how, I mean, it sounds like he gave you an incredible amount of freedom for this, and obviously the improv, and also really in helping you build the character. I mean, that must be such a fantastic thing for an actor to have in a movie.
I would love to work that way 80% of the time. Because when you're working on a script, it's been thought out, and it's come from somebody else's brain, and a genius brain. I love writers, and I think it's something that I could never do. But for the actor, oftentimes 80% of the work is making it sound like you invented that line then in the moment. And working in this way, improvising, that's the case. I mean, that's done. You are inventing. And it also meant that, we could try stuff out that probably wouldn't make it in the... there was so much stuff we shot that didn't make it into the film, with amazing actors that were cut, and hours of stuff that we went far with that just didn't make it in. But, we had that luxury of being able to keep the camera going and just shoot and see what happens. And that often doesn't happen with regular sort of scripts, because you know exactly what it is that you want. It's like a double-edged sword, because sometimes you can be quite indulgent and it goes off on a weird tangent and there was no reason for it, or there's like a lack of rhythm or whatever. But I loved it, because in terms of performance, you could just lose yourself in it, and it became less I felt very unself-conscious in the making of this film, more so than anything else I've done, in that I forgot that I was like acting in a film sort of thing. And also because the camera is on you all the time, and it was incredibly close, to the point where I just forgot that it was there. And often when you're making a regular film, you've got a mark to hit, and they're lighting it, and you know exactly where the camera is, and there's a sort of pressure. Whereas it was nice that it could be soft and out of focus, and I just liked that fluidity, and it was great.
And I think one of the things I loved about this is it almost shows that fulfillment in life is it's sort of intangible. I mean, what people could say, oh, it would appear you have everything you need. You've got a family. Everything seems to be fine, but that doesn't equate to feeling content. I mean, is that one of the themes that really drew you in as well to this role?
Yeah, I think that that's definitely something that I wanted to explore, because I know people that have gone through what my character goes through to a greater or lesser degree. And often I think there's so much pressure that we put on ourselves to be a certain way, or I must be happy because I have this, and this will make me happy. And actually you can't really say what will make you happy. You just kind of have to feel it out. And I think what I really wanted to explore was it's something that came up through the shooting of it, wasn't necessarily in the script, was her connection to this tapestry and why it is that she gets so attached to it. And it's about I think she's a deeply creative person that hasn't been able to express it. And I think of myself, like, if I couldn't be creative, I think I would self-implode a little bit, so there's that. And also relationships, I mean, I think they were happy when they were younger. Like Dominic Cooper and I did a lot of chat about, how they met, and they probably met at school and had a great time, and then, they just grew into other new people. And I think that is something that you see time and time again with people around you, and people growing apart. And I think that's something that's very relatable in the film, is that sort of relationships becoming disjointed and just not working anymore, and why. And unfortunately there are kids involved in this instance, but so it was a great thing to be involved in, because it explored a lot of the things that I'm interested in as a person, like things that fascinate me, like relationships and and motherhood and all of that stuff.
And it's true. I mean, about obviously the sort of growing apart, but actually one of the bravest, almost you couldn't really call her actions courageous as such, but confronting it is one of the hardest things to do. And she doesn't necessarily confront it, but she still does something about it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's an empowering film, or I don't really know the reaction. I think that she's confronting it, and I mean, I think living with that sadness is really dangerous, not only for the person that's depressed, but the people around them. And being able to confront it and do something about it is better for everybody. And sometimes that means extricating yourself from the situation. And I think a lot of people don't do that, and they just live like that, and they live in a miserable situation, or they don't talk about their feelings, or they just settle for something that makes them unhappy. And I think what I'd like with this film is that maybe, we start a debate, which is, you can do something about it. You don't have to settle and just live your life in that way.
Yeah. Because I think it's just amazing. I mean, how we do just get this kind of mental block that we're kind of unable to drag ourselves out of, and sometimes you can't even understand why we're feeling those things, but then you just can't help feeling them anyway. I think there's some beautiful, most subtle moments. I mean, when they're in the restaurant and when they're looking at each other on the train, for instance, moments like that, so subtle. I mean, in regards to sort of research and preparing for the role, I mean, you said that you know people that have been through this. Did you actually speak to them, or did you just, is it one of those things that there's so much about this relationship that we can all relate to, you were able to find it within yourself?
I didn't speak to anyone per se about their own experience, but I've witnessed this happening with certain people. So I was drawing on that. And then I think I think there was definitely something about Tara that I could kind of relate to in a certain way. But yeah, it just happened. I can't really, it just sort of happened. It's really weird. I can't really explain it, but yeah, I think I've observed this kind of behaviour before in people, and that really resonated with me. So that's probably the biggest draw.
And obviously, when you're working on a project like this, you require so much trust with the actor you're working alongside. But you and Dominic have known each other for a number of years. That must have been so incredibly helpful in this production.
It was invaluable. I actually don't think I can't imagine anybody else doing it, because our relationship's very special, mine and Dominic's, in that we are two idiots that make each other laugh, but we can also be very vulnerable around each other and open up to each other. Very, like, he's almost like family, like a brother or something. And so when we were just discussing who should play Mark, there was a list, and he was like top of the list for all of us, because Dominic Savage had worked with him before. He also had that thing of like the kind of working class Jack the Lad, done good, you know, that kind of thing, which is a very specific thing to play. And I think you have to have experience of that in life. And he is from the sort of same part of the world as me, and we had an understanding of that kind of setup, family setup, those kind of people. But yeah, in terms of the intimate stuff and being vulnerable, it was, I mean, day one of the shoot was all the bedroom scenes, and we just got into it, and there was no judgment, there was no embarrassment, we just could get on with it without any problem. It's very, very tricky. I can't imagine doing it with any other actor, because I think I probably would have felt a bit embarrassed or something.
Yeah. And just finally, we met last year in Toronto as well. That was for Orphan, and you were speaking then about this urge to move to Berlin and to do a lot of work over there and maybe set up a production company and that sort of stuff. I was just wondering if there's any kind of update on that. Are you still? I
am still producing. I mean, my film that I'm shooting at the moment is a film that I've been involved in for like 3-4 years, called Vita in Virginia, but that's a British production. And then another film that I'm producing, but it's all sort of happening in the UK, which is odd because of Brexit. All of the money is sort of running out, but I feel very passionately about making films set in the UK, about the people that I can identify with. And I mean, Vita in Virginia is the most sort of, it couldn't be more different to this film, to The Escape. Like, it's really buoyant and opulent, and my character is incredibly expressive and full of life. But yeah, I mean, who knows? I don't know what's going to happen post-Brexit in terms of finance. So it might be that, you know, a lot of people are going to move out and go to, you know, Germany and Belgium and where not, because that's where the money's at. But I feel very passionate about keeping British film, independent film, alive. And it is my biggest passion, is making independent British film. So, yeah, I'll keep going at it. It's hard, though. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey You Guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yeah.
Nice.
Hey You Guys!